Product recall, I mean, it's still a growing marketplace. You're seeing it become a more popular coverage, but it's still fairly niche in that respect. And you're seeing it being written into more and more contracts. And we're just trying to sell the value of the coverage and how important it is for insureds to maintain that cover. We've seen loss trends become more frequent and more severe. And because of that, I mean, we're just stressing as much as possible that this is an incredibly useful coverage to have. It's balance sheet protection for these insureds, and it's going to cover them on a lot of their financial loss. So there's been a little bit of a slowdown just because of some economic factors. But we're still seeing new buyers come into the marketplace, and we're trying to push the coverage as much as we can.
In line with that, the sell with the general liability policies and the recall has been very successful with GenCap as of late. It's very easy now for us on the claims handling side when, historically GL policy would pick up a sublimit. It's really not handled accordingly. Where now if we bunch the recall and the general liability, we're not having fingers pointing in terms of other policies getting triggered. The claims handling is hands over fists a lot easier when you sell both of those policies in concurrency together. A lot of success over those sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And to Connor's point, just kind of speaking to some of that consistency in claim coverage there. I mean, when you have claims people chasing each other across company lines, the communication it can just be lacking there. And so when you're able to pair the product recall coverage with their liability policy as well, you're keeping that all in-house. And like you said, that there's much less finger pointing going on because you have one carrier who's going to be covering whichever claim or whichever policy the claim is applied to. So, we've just found the communication on it to be much more streamlined, much more efficient, and it's been a solid route for us to take.
Also, too, with the new buyer aspect of the marketplace, a lot of the recent successes is, these buyers are first-time buyers in the market. So we typically like to have these carriers of ours, Chubbs of the world, get in early. And we see these companies grow 2x, sometimes even 3x on a year-over-year basis. And the whole thing is having a carrier to pay claims for you, right? So when you get in early with a new client and you stay consistently as opposed to shopping around every renewal, there's a real relationship from the insurance perspective too that's very valuable that we've seen across all kind of risk classes. Getting in early, see the growth of the company, you actually see the need too. And when these companies grow, if they get into contract with the Walmarts of the world, they actually end up needing it as they see the growth happen too on the business side of it. Absolutely.
And what Connor was touching on there, creating a partnership between the insured and the carrier has been invaluable. When an insured can really develop a relationship with a specific carrier, and that carrier has down to a T exactly what their operations are, that the way that they're operating is above board, and they're just truly comfortable with that exposure, it's only going to help them in a renewal process and in the claims handling process as well. Because if an insured has that set of data there, and they can look back and say, all right, no, we believe this is a one-off incident, that next renewal after a claim happens is going to be that much more favorable. So, it's important to create a partnership between the insureds and the carriers there.
The broad overview in terms of what insureds think they're getting covered on these sometimes sublimited coverages on the GL policy. Carriers in the recall space now have been very advantageous in making their product more robust. So we have now coverages for if and when a product gets on the news for you and it's in a huge class action or even a big recall, that company is already seeing profit loss. And that exact loss of profit is not covered in those sublimits and those general liability policies. And usually once it hit the news, you can't really take that back. So those are where those new products in the recall market, adverse publicity, a lot of those, what we would usually consider sublimits in those policies are now full aggregated limits in the products. And it's just those simple kind of coverage enhancements that take a seasoned wholesaler to really kind of go into policy wording and elaborate that to the insured because they think that they're covered on that supplement on the GL and they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to the marketplace being incredibly competitive right now and carriers doing everything that they can to differentiate themselves to make their product better. And you see different carriers providing new endorsements, fairly regularly. And I think one of the main examples right now is an extraneous matter endorsement on food accounts. And so going back to the coverage trigger that we mentioned before, this is an endorsement that would expand coverage and give a sublimit on the policy for a loss that isn't threatening to bodily injury or property damage. If you find a fairly mundane mold in a large subset of the product, if there's some sort of insect infestation that found its way into the product, that would then be a covered claim. Oftentimes, they're not usually to the full policy limit, but they are now willing to provide some sort of coverage there for those type of events. So, and that's just one example. You see many different carriers just trying to create different policy forms that are going to be useful for the insured, that are just going to incentivize them to buy the coverage more and more.
Given the market conditions on all the carriers getting very competitive in the landscape of selling their products to us, it takes GenCap's dedicated team of strictly recall professionals to message to our clients and insureds what they are getting covered for and what this policy wording is really intending to do for their business down the line. Again, it changes every week, it seems like. So our professionals are reading policy wording day in and day out, and we are able to message what is being covered and what isn't compared to a GL recall policy.
Yeah, so one strategy that we've found to be successful is introducing our carrier partners to our insureds. We find that especially in a new buying process, if you can give them a face of the person who's going to be underwriting the business, gives them a level of comfort that they wouldn't have otherwise. Knowing that this person is going to be taking care of them, they're doing the best that they can to underwrite their exposures. We've found that insureds are more likely to purchase when they can speak directly to them, and the carriers are excellent at selling their product, so it's only going to help that buying process more and more. At GenCap, we really come to the table with a team mindset, and whether you're looking to place a liability or product recall, we're constantly communicating across lines and have a free flowing of ideas there to get the best possible placement on any line that you bring us.
That's ultimately the power of the GenCap platform.